Dana Jivanistara Rila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Nistarila Jivanistarila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Gita Bhagavate Kaila Bhaktira Vyakhyana Jivanistara Rila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Gita Bhagavate Kaila Bhaktira Vaikayana Jivanishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Gita Bhagavate Kaila Bhaktira Vyakayana Jivanishtarila Dana Jivanishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidana Jai Jiva the living entities Nishtarila delivered Krishna Bhakti devotional service to Lord Krishna Kari making Dana gift Gita Bhagavate in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam Kaila performed Bhakti Vyakhyana explanation of devotional service. Translation: He delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Responsively, please. He delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu, for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and throughout all his activities he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they also belonged to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Caitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists, and self-worshippers when they had already become under the spell of this age. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita Acharya especially intended to teach the conditioned souls about devotional service. The word Acharya means teacher. The special function of a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. The real qualification of an Acharya is that he presents himself as a servant of the Supreme. Such a bona fide Acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an Acharya to defy such impostors posing as God before the innocent public. Caitanya manobhastam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swavedantikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhattarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Srila Prabhupada's clarifying at the end of the purport that Advaita Acharya isn't a normal person. He's in the Vishnu category. And the distinction between the Vishnu category and Jiva category, there's two characteristics that Vishnu Tattva possess that the Jiva don't. One is that they're Swarat, which means that they're independent of any laws. They don't have to obey any of the laws if they don't want to. And they're also Swarat. Swarat means that they're fully cognizant of everything going on in the entire creation. Whereas the Jiva is under the jurisdiction of the laws of material nature, and he's also barely cognizant of what's going on in his own body, never mind the entire creation with all the universes in it. So that's the difference. So Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu and for the welfare of the conditioned souls. So Advaita Acharya, as Mahavishnu, he's creating all the universes, and then he decides he needs to go into those universes and teach all the living entities. Just like I know a man in Hull that makes security prisons, and these are for they're high security, and they're for people that have done really atrocious things. And there's 3 lots of people that are employed to look after them. They take 8-hour shifts, and they're under constant surveillance because they're such nasty people. In the Vedic society, they would have just been executed. So much money and time wasted. But anyway, the person who's designing the prisons, if he's a very conscientious person, he'll be thinking, I need to go into those prisons and teach those prisoners how to behave properly. Otherwise, what's the point? They just rot in the prison, and they come out, and they're worse than they were before they went in the prison. They've become PhDs in crime when they've come out with their prison sentence. And then they're able to commit so many more crimes, and then again they go back into prison. So the system fails. But the Krishna's system is to keep the living entities imprisoned until they're reformed, and rather than just leave them to it, which would be perpetual engagement in the material energy, he intervenes, and he has a whole master plan. Lord Caitanya wanted to take to do his pastimes here in the material world. He wanted to understand the love of Radharani, and he wanted to deliver the fallen souls. That was his internal and his external reasons. And so he decided he would orchestrate a whole strategy of powerful Sena Bhaktas, who are Senapati Bhaktas, who are great, powerful, either very elevated jivas or the Vishnu category itself. So all these personalities come down: Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and then so many after in the wake: Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, Ramachandra Kaviraj, so many all playing their part in the master plan to spread Krishna consciousness. So Advaita Acharya is one of the first ones to spearhead everything. And so he sets the foundation, puts things into place, starts to teach about the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Lord Caitanya comes down and there's a Hare Krishna explosion. So when Lord Caitanya came down, he actually delivered the entire universe, because Vasudeva Datta was, he said, could you please transfer everyone's karma onto me and I'll stay here perpetually in the material world and take everybody back with you. And Lord Caitanya said, well, you don't have to stay here to suffer. I can just release them all straight away. So then it looks like everything's the same. But actually what happened was all the jivas went back, and then jivas that were in comatose in the Mahatattva, they were put into the bodies of the jivas who were liberated. So all the jivas went back to Godhead, and all the material bodies were reoccupied by souls from the Mahatattva. So there was a changeover. So it's a shame. If we'd have been around 500 years ago, then we would have gone back to Godhead by now. But hopefully this lifetime anyway. So there's so many jivas waiting to take birth in the material world. There's an unlimited stock waiting to take birth. And they wait until an appropriate body is there, and then it can be occupied. Quite an intricate system, really. My dad was struggling with that. He says it's too intricate. It's too, it's just how the arrangement, the precision of the arrangement and the intricacy of the arrangement is too mind-boggling. So then he wanted to reject. He kind of accepted still, but he was just struggling with trying to understand how that could take place. So if you have faith, that's good, but faith should be tempered with knowledge. We can have some initial thrust of faith, but then we have to go from approaching Krishna in distress or in inquisitiveness or in search of opulence, and we have to come to the point of searching for Krishna in knowledge. Sambandha, we have to have the Sambandha, and then we can apply the Abhideya. So it's nice to have some initial faith, but then we need to acquire the knowledge. Uttama Adhikari. So Advaita Prabhu was Vishnu, as was Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda. However, they didn't exhibit their all-powerful Vishnu potency, because if they did, it would give rise to more impersonalists and more monists and self-worshippers, because they would all take it cheaply. Oh well, if he can be God, then I can do the same. So instead, they said, no, we're not God, we're servants of God. But even though they said that and gave that example, still there are plenty of people wanting to try being God. And it's very subtle, actually, how you can want to be God, because all you have to do is want to be the controller and the enjoyer. And although you're not standing up and asking everybody to worship you, to one degree, you are still thinking that you are God, that you are the center of the universe. And if you take that to its extreme, it's called schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is some of the illusions that schizophrenics have. One man, he thought that at night, the South Lanarkshire Council dismantled all the buildings, and then in the morning, just before he got up, that they reconstructed them all, so that when he looked out the window, he could see all these houses. So that's acute schizophrenia, and that's that is the God principle taken to its extreme. That I am the center, and whatever I think is reality. If I think this, then it must be reality. Or if I keep thinking it long enough, then it'll become reality. So to one degree or another, people are all under that schizophrenic illusion. So therefore they didn't come down to exhibit their all-powerful Vishnu potency. Instead, they played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. So you see with Lord Caitanya, when he's having that argument with Prakashananda Saraswati, well, first of all, it's a discussion really, but Lord Caitanya is very, very humble the way he approaches the situation. And by his humility, they all become very receptive to hear what Lord Caitanya has to say. And so in the same way also, Advaitacharya was very very humble and very fixed in the service attitude. And there was competition between him and Lord Caitanya. Lord Caitanya was trying to worship Advaitacharya because he was one of his spiritual master's godbrothers, and Advaitacharya was trying to worship Lord Caitanya because he's the Supreme Person. So they were fighting each other to try and touch each other's feet. So in the material world, everyone is competing to be God. And in the spiritual world, everyone is competing to be a servant. So we can take it from that being God isn't as good as being a servant. Although we may think it is. I just sit here and everybody serves me and fans me and tell me how great I am. And I don't have to do any work. Everyone cooks for me and does everything for me. That must be really good. But even though that could be what God could do, he wants to be a servant. So then we can take it from that. That must be even more pleasing. Because it's an acquired taste, being a servant. But we're working on that. That's sadhana bhakti is vaidhi is we're doing things, maybe a little bit reluctantly at times. And then when we become spontaneous, then we will naturally want to serve. You only have to do something until you want to, and then you don't have to do it anymore because you want to do it. So if there's something you don't really want to do, you say, well, how long do I have to do this for? Until you want to, and you don't have to do it anymore. The special function of a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. So obviously there's not many teachers in the educational system. We can really narrow it down. How many teachers did you come across in your education? According to this, these people are not teachers. And if they're not teachers, what's the only other thing that a teacher can be? If he's not a teacher, but he's saying he's a teacher, what does that make him? A cheater, Prabhupada would say. He would even say that to the teachers. One teacher was saying, well, I don't actually know. And he goes, well, why are you teaching then? You are not teacher, you are cheater. And the teacher was like, well, I don't think you can really say that. So unless you're teaching, the special function of a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious, a bona fide teacher. So that's really what a spiritual master is. A spiritual master is a teacher, an acharya. He sets the example. Such a bona fide acharya can never support the demonic activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. And also, the point is made that Advaitacharya is a limb of the Lord, so which is more intimate than a part of the Lord. So we are parts and parcels of Krishna, but that's not as intimate as being a limb of Krishna. Advaitacharya is a limb. So with a limb is never going to act in a way contrary to the welfare of the body. Whereas a part and parcel can. Tatasta Shakti. Tatasta means marginal, so it means sometimes we can be covered over by the material energy. Whereas the Vishnu category cannot be covered over by the material energy because of the intimate connection that's there. It's interesting that it would seem, well, Krishna must get more pleasure associating with the Vishnu tattva than the Jiva tattva. But Krishna says, Napariyaham to the gopis, he says, I cannot repay you. What you have done, I cannot repay. I am eternally indebted to you. Which is interesting. The almighty, unlimited, all-potent, supreme person feels he cannot reciprocate with the tiny, infinitesimal jiva. Because Krishna has to look after everybody, and the jiva can just be wholeheartedly and undividedly devoted to him and nobody else. And Krishna cannot reciprocate with that single-pointed devotion because he has to look after everybody. There's three categories of Gopi: Deva, Jiva, and Nityasiddha. If you study Shiva Ramash's book, Adhoksaja, you'll see there's different categories.
So ultimately, those who are sadhanas with gopis also, they are also like jivas only.
Jiva, yeah. Just like we are being offered positions of gopis, and we are jivas, but we can take that post. We're being presented. Lord Caitanya is offering us. That is our legacy in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We are servants of Radharani, and we want to become gopis. That's what we aspire for. Please make me your very own maidservant. We say it every day. It's not that we're like a jiva maidservant and we have to stand outside the bushes and everybody else can go in. And then there are devas also that take part. Sadhana Siddha, Nitya Siddha, and Deva. They all take part in the pastimes. If you read Vilap Kusumanjali, it's explained very nicely. It explains in there also that Rati Manjari's service is to clean the latrin of Radharani, which means that in the spiritual world they pass tu and they pass urine. Those things go on. I'll have to find the section for you in Vilap Kusumanjali.
I was told somewhere in class that it's optional in the spiritual world, you know, if people wish to eat or not. We have the facilities if they wish to take part in the eating of food or offerings, but we don't actually have to because in the spiritual world. And I wonder if this is perhaps the same as in street food. It's probably not. Is it a necessity, or is it maybe something done to engage people? You know, in some sort of class.
Yeah, well, one person was saying, that doesn't take place in the spiritual world, but everything that's happening here in the material world is a reflection of what's going on in the spiritual world. But here it's all perverted and nasty. So, Krishna breathes, Krishna blushes, sometimes there's drops of blood on Krishna, he perspires, all these things are there. And what we have here is, it's like having, when Lord Brahma was first creating, he didn't know how to create anything because all he was aware of was the darkness around him. And then when he saw the spiritual world, then he was able to see what a tree looks like, what grass looks like, what is male, what is female. And then with the material energy, he could create it like clay dolls representing their original counterparts. But everything here is made of the material energy with all its inebrities. Like here, when we bend our arm, the bone comes out because there's a bone inside and it swivels inside the socket, and therefore it can only go so far. And the fingers have little knuckles and those bones intersect, and then they go up and down because there's muscles that pull them like a mechanical arrangement. And in the spiritual world, they have all these parts as well, but they don't have to have little muscles that are pulling everything. Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna's body doesn't have muscles or veins. At the same time, he has a form. So our form is replicating that. So we think Krishna's body is made as a replica of our body, but it's the other way around. Our body is made in a replica of Krishna's body. And so it's described that Rati Manjari, she cleans the toilet area of Radharani, and she uses her hair. Radharani says, "Why are you using your hair?" She says, "Because I want to give myself completely to the service of serving you. So by cleaning with my hair, that's showing how much she just wants to give everything. She wants to surrender everything." So we get a little glimpse into the supreme reality, and our line, our Gaudiya line, is offering this very intimate understanding, and we have to become qualified to come up into this knowledge, this awareness, this appreciation. It's generally not something which is spoken about unless it's amongst very advanced devotees. So forgive me for that. But just the general principle is that in the material world, the living entities have come here to forget. But because Mahavishnu made the material world, he feels responsible to come and instruct the living entities that are in the prison house how to get out. So he comes as Advaita Acharya, and then Lord Caitanya and his associates, they come also as part of the grand plan. And that happens so many times, even in one day of, in Lord Brahma, one day they appear once. But if Lord Chaitanya doesn't personally come down, then in those other 999 Kali Yugas, then a living entity like Srila Prabhupada comes down to spread the holy name. But we just happen to be on the one cycle of yugas in this particular Kali Yuga where Lord Chaitanya, Swayam Bhagavan himself, came down. So Advaita Acharyas, especially in this Kali Yuga, is very eager that everyone gets the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So he begs Lord Chaitanya to come down. He preaches Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And he sets the foundation, and then Lord Chaitanya comes, and everything ignites with Krishna consciousness. Such a bona fide acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an acharya to defy such impostors posing as God before the innocent public. So a teacher doesn't come down just to teach, but he also comes down to identify who the bogus teachers are as well, and why they're bogus. So part of the job of a devotee is to learn how to present the philosophy and how to counteract arguments against the philosophy. And that's why Bhakti distribution is very important service, to learn how to do that, to be able to present the philosophy and defeat opposing arguments in a nice way, not in a confrontational way, not that you smash the person and then he's so embarrassed that his false ego won't allow him to take a book. Has to be done in a nice way. It may even be that we don't completely prove them to be wrong, although they've made some very kind of fallacious statement, but it's more conducive in getting them to take the book, to concede to some degree, because the real victory is that they take the book favorably. And then once they're alone, then the book can call them a fool, and that's between them and the book. Whereas if we call them a fool, their false ego could become agitated. My dear sir, you are very intelligent and you are very elevated and you are so learned, but now I'm asking, forget everything and just read this book. So it has to be done like that in a nice way. And we can only try, we may try to, we had a Sankirtan meeting the other day, and the devotees, there's one Mataji, Guru Shakti Mataji, and she was saying she went out the other day and she was in Soho Street She says, everybody thinks I'm a big book distributor, but I only did 2 books that day. Don't know how long she was out for, but she was saying, but that's okay because those 2 books went out in a nice way and the people that took them were very favorable. And I felt satisfied that I'd done that. So we should try and approach the activity of book distribution transcendentally, not be so attached to our prestige and the result. We're just trying to leave people with a favorable impression, get them to come in contact with one of Srila Prabhupada's books. Any questions or comments? Yes, back to Alan.
Yes, Prabhu. Thanks again for your class. Very nice. You had mentioned that there's a combination of personalities sometimes in certain cases, and I believe you had mentioned Advaita Acharya as a combination of Vishnu and someone else. Could you?
Vishnu and Shiva.
Yeah. And Shiva. Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's how personalities can combine and occupy the same body is inconceivable. So Advaita Acharya, although he is the incarnation of Vishnu for the welfare of the conditioned souls, so it's more, because sometimes people say, oh, if God showed himself, then I would believe in him. That's generally what people think, you know. If he's there, can't he just peep his head behind the clouds and just say, Hari Bo, and then just go away? Then everyone will think, well, that was obviously God, so there must be a God. I better be a good person. That's what you would think. That's what I thought when I was a kid as well. So why doesn't he just, there's a God, why doesn't he just give us a wave and we'll all be on the same page? But unfortunately, if he was to do that, it wouldn't work like that. Everyone would start thinking that they could be God as well.
That if deep down we have a desire for something else which is contrary to what somebody wants to show us, then we'll find a way to ignore that. And so, like for example, some people with the idea of pollution, well, it's not a problem. You know, they don't want to think about it because it means changing the way they behave. And so if somebody was with some sort of divine power was trying to show people these things, somebody was maybe just a magician, it's a trick. And because people, I think, would want to, not believe.
That's what happened with Duryodhana. Krishna showed his universal form. And Duryodhana was taken aback and he was having second thoughts about engaging in the battle. And then when he went back, all his demonic friends, he says, I'm thinking of calling the battle off. I think actually Krishna is the supreme person. And his friend said, no, he's not. He's just a magician. He's just shown you that. He's kind of hypnotized you and made you see that. But he's not. He's just an ordinary person. And then Krishna, he behaves like an ordinary person as well. You know, like when Superman is Clark Kent and he fumbles around and he looks like he's incompetent, and he does that. So Krishna does it when he's fighting. Sometimes he'll drop his club or he'll let the person go loose, and it looks like, and the demon thinks, oh, I'm getting the upper hand. And he's just playing around, and then he turns around and whacks them, you know. So that's what Krishna does. Then he can enjoy it more, surprise them by making out that he's a bit incompetent. And then he surprises them. There's one guy, actually, he dresses up like an old man. And he's got like a beard on and an overall. And these really heavy weightlifting guys are there, you know, with like loads of weights on the thing. And he goes over, he goes, is that real? And they say, of course it's real. He said, it looks false to me. Those weights look hollow. And he goes, no, they're definitely real. He goes, no, I don't think so. He goes, I'll show you. And he goes like that, and he picks it up, and he goes like that. And these guys are just all massive guys, and like, wow, because they have to struggle. And this guy, he is a really, trained weightlifter, but he just dresses up like an old guy and then surprises them. And Krishna does the same thing, He just comes over as a little boy. Just give me 3 steps of land. And then he kicks a hole in the universe. I mean, can you imagine what that must look like? His leg goes up, and it just goes right up through the clouds. And then you just hear a crunch. And the universe has just been cracked open. And the Ganga comes flowing in. Pretty powerful.
Sorry, one more question, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Maybe not one. You had mentioned that the whole universe was delivered at the time of Lord Caitanya, coming here. So all the other jivas have come from the Mahatattva, and this is like another batch of jivas. But every time Lord Caitanya comes, there's meant to be like an age, a golden age, is there not, where the principles of Krishna consciousness and this sort of thing are abided by on earth again, and before it all goes bad. So in that golden age, there's an excellent opportunity for all the jivas that have come in again to be, sent back to Godhead or liberated. So I'm thinking if this process is ongoing, I mean, will we not at one point run out of jivas? Or is it the case that every time the manifestation is produced, that the jivas are given the option to go and enjoy the material energy? Do we have some information on that?
So just to clarify your question, are you saying that when Lord Chaitanya liberated the universe, that some of them could come back to enjoy?
No, I'm not sure if it's even possible. It was just, I know that we are told that once people reach the spiritual realm, they never come back.
That's right.
But we also know that some beings are asked to come back and perform certain functions, like Srila Prabhupada. So there is some sort of thing. I can't understand, the infinite potency of Krishna. But I would have thought the jivas, are jivas constantly being produced and therefore having to constantly be sent to the spiritual world, or what's happening? Because I would have thought it of...
The jivas Krishna's effulgence is the jivas emanating from him, and he's constantly emanating life. So there's always fresh life, although they're eternal, which is inconceivable, isn't it? And there's always, Srila Prabhupada said, 10% of the jivas that are coming out of Krishna, they fall into the material world, and 90% stay in the spiritual world. So there's always that 10% coming here in the material world. So even if you vacate the universe, there's that many of them that they have to wait in the Mahatattva in comatose, and then when there's a vacancy, then they can come in and take birth as a blade of grass, or a giraffe, or wherever it is that the living entity's next body needs to be in his evolution of consciousness. And then every now and again, and also when Lord Ramachandra left, all the citizens entered the ocean with him, and they all went straight back to Godhead with him, And I heard something about Krishna doing something like that as well. So periodically, the living entities are falling into the material world, and then every now and again, everyone just gets cleared out. And then again, more are occupying it. And there's fresh living entities all the time being produced. Which is inconceivable, isn't it? Because at the same time, the living entities are eternal. And at the same time, Krishna's emanating living entities all the time. That's inconceivable. Because Krishna is beyond time, and we're in the material world, we're under the jurisdiction of dimension, length, breadth, weight, time. We're restricted, and Krishna is beyond all that. He's outside of time. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Never was there a time. And I'm just trying to learn this verse now. This is an amazing verse. This is, actually, it's, no, it's here. This is, those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Nasato vijite bhavo nabhavo vijite sata ubayo api dristo nitas tvanayos tatvadashibi. Tatvadashibi is someone that sees. Tattva is truth. Dashibi means to see something. So those who are seers of the truth have concluded that that the eternal, there is no cessation, and the non-existent, there is no endurance. Okay, I'll finish there. In Iskon Guru Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Oh.